that love of that human animal bond that we've been able to experience even more so across the country now, that 23 million households adopted a pet during the pandemic, which has been
Wow.
outstanding to see pets get homes, and that human animal bond's truly been mutual. When I think about that partnership, Jim, we still have a ton more to do, and it's about trying to be beacons for how companies and leaders ought to behave. And that's where we wanted to step in. We're so proud to step in this journey with you. But we can only be as good as those barriers that we're facing and that we need to overcome. But the numbers speak for themselves. I always love the numbers are the what, and those are the outcome of the behavior, and it's the outcome of the commitment. And your team is truly committed, which is absolutely inspiring. So 97% of club teens expect to graduate high school. 52% of your 12th grade club members want to have a career in STEM, which is absolutely fantastic. And why that's important is 52% with your students, and nationally it's only 27%, so 100% improvement over there. So outstanding job there. So outstanding job for that. But the question I'm going to ask is, it's like, what can you tell us about your kids that you work with today, and why has STEM been such an important focus, and why the big difference in your kids versus the kids across the nation?
Well, first of all, it's great to be with you and your entire team, and thanks for the invite to spend some time with you this afternoon, or this morning, I guess, for you. First and foremost, we are also incredibly excited about the partnership that has been put together, as you mentioned, for all the reasons that you said, and I'll weave some of that in as we go through today. But to answer your question, when we think about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, it's all about closing the gap when it comes to space or areas that kids don't have exposure to, experiences and opportunities, particularly that some kids get. So we've zeroed in on that to close that gap. And second of all, it is a vital component of youth development, if you will. And unfortunately, as we all know, the education system across the country has had to diminish some of those key areas because of cost issues and things like that. So we've actually picked them up and expanded and broadened when it comes to these specific areas. And then, third of all, it's really about career preparation and career exposure and career awareness and career building opportunities. And when I think specifically about our partnership, it's not always front and center for all kids. Some, yes, maybe that grow up in a more pet or rural area where there are animals, but in urban settings, it's not always the case. So this partnership exposes kids to other opportunities they may not have thought of for a career. And it may not be a veterinarian, right? There's so many other things that happen inside your enterprise.
Absolutely.
And this exposure is really, really good for that.
I think it's fantastic. And you said it's something that was really important, that they may not have that connection to pets yet, but they have that aptitude and they have that desire inside to make a difference in a pet's life. And you're absolutely right. Whether it's veterinary school and becoming a veterinarian, or a veterinary technician, or a practice manager, I mean, there's endless opportunities inside our hospital. And then once you get inside of a hospital in your local community, gosh, there's opportunities then in our office here in Washington, and field roles and leadership roles. So it's about identifying those with that aptitude. I love what you talked about mentoring there, and it's that just struck a chord for me, because I just go back to my early days, and I remember when I was 16 years old, I was working at Walgreens drugstores, stocking shelves, mopping bathrooms, cashiering, etc. And I thought it was a part-time job, and it was just financial independence for my parents, so I could not be told no on going to a movie or something with my friends. But it changed my life, because I had someone who did mentor me. So that mentorship is just incredibly important. So I appreciate you sharing that, because it makes a big difference. And really everyone on this call in a leadership role, you play a leader. You're responsible for the culture in which you create, and you impact people, and that impact can be mentorship or sponsorship. So
That's right.
Absolutely outstanding. So Next question I have is, so the Boys and Girls Club of America just fills a critically important role in our society by helping the youth reach their potential. So kind of tied to that statement I just made on mentorship. Can you talk really about the importance of corporate partnerships and like how do these partnerships, how important are these partnerships? And it's like the one that we have, like how does this really help bring your mission to life?
Yeah, great question. And it does piggyback right on what you were saying. You think about our model, and our model is a little different than many youth serving organizations. The core of our model is facility based
Mm-hmm.
in terms of a place, if you will, for kids and teens to come to. Second of all, our main connectivity point, mentors, if you will, are
Yeah.
paid professionals, a lot like what you do.
Yeah.
And then there's several 100,000 that volunteer to engage and help and mentor and support youth in their development. And many of those come from corporate partners like
Gotcha.
yourselves.
Yeah.
And there's a couple things about corporate partnerships I personally really like because back to the first question, our corporate partners are able to provide those specific career professionals to talk about their job, their role, how they got to where they are, what they're doing. Again, paint that picture or illustrate for youth that may otherwise not have exposure to that type of a engagement. That's what corporate partners do. You're
Right.
doing that as part of this partnership
Sure.
as well. And then, of course, with corporate partners, it really is about time. As I just said, it's about resources, it's about materials, like what you're doing, donating 2,000 STEM kits to boys and girls clubs to really fulfill on question number one, right? I mean, it's great to have that philosophy and that approach, but you need the equipment, you need the tools to
Sure.
do it, and the resources financially to support the staff and to support the operations of the organization. So again, we're really fortunate to have many corporate partners, but again, ours with you is unique in that the experience and the opportunity you provide, they may not otherwise get. So
Yeah.
I get fired up about talking about this.
Well, I love that you're fired up about it because it does tie to what we're trying to do, and we live by our five principles, and one of those is freedom. And so I bring that freedom principle up because that allows us the opportunity to invest back in our communities and invest in our associates. And when we're able to do that, it's a way to really continue to foster the future of veterinary medicine. So I just absolutely love what you shared. So along those lines, from the partnership standpoint, we created this idea and this partnership with you for NextVet. These internships are great steps for us to prepare the next generation to around purposeful careers, but also around that love of that human animal bond that we've been able to experience even more so across the country now that 23 million households adopted a pet during the pandemic, which has been
Wow.
outstanding to see pets get homes, and that human animal bond's truly been mutual. When I think about that partnership, Jim, we still have a ton more to do, and it's about trying to be beacons for how companies and leaders ought to behave, and that's where we wanted to step in. We're so proud to step in this journey with you, but we can only be as good as those barriers that we're facing and that we need to overcome. And when I think about barriers just in general, it's one thing to be able to give some internships, but it's another thing to really break through those. So if you think about like the top maybe three career barriers that your kids are telling you that they're facing today, like what are those barriers that they're facing? And then the follow-up question I guess I'd ask is then like what type of development or support do they need most from like organizations like Banfield, like once they come to work with us?
Yeah, great question. And there's a kind of two-part answer to this one because if you look at the journey line, or if you look at the continuum, if you will, in terms of what kids need to be prepared for life and frankly work, it starts upstream pretty far, and it
Sure.
starts with elementary age, and it's learning those essential skills, we call them. You may think of them as soft skills, problem solving, communication, innovation, creativity, conflict resolution. All of these things are really important. And then it steps into career awareness, then it steps into career development, and then hopefully an experience. So you're kind of then to answer number two to this. So
Yeah.
those first four things are really important, and if youth don't have those, they're probably not going to be successful, or as I like to say, be in a position to earn a family sustaining income, whether
Sure.
they go on to college or they're just going into the workforce. So
Right.
that's really, really important. And then the obstacles, they face beyond that really kind of boil down to some specific things in the lives of kids we serve,
Right.
and the communities and neighborhoods that we serve. So, for example, it's transportation, getting to that job. I don't know about you or how far Walgreens was away from your home when you were a child or a young adult. I worked as well in high school, but I had a car, and so I could get to my job and I could work. So transportation continues to be a big obstacle. Second of all is really access to what you just described, that experience, right? Whether it's an internship or hopefully some of these internships turn into, as you just described, a job working
Right.
at your organization. So just access to that is just so much more difficult for kids coming from under-resourced communities or economically challenged households. And then third is really this equity issue when it comes to financial equity and being able to um, meet the needs they have, their family has, and deal with some of the pressures at home, yet still be able to work. So
Right.
those things all really come into play in a big way. And then your second half of the question was around resources. Well, we've talked about those. It's kind of the mirror reflection of what we just said and what you were
Right.
talking about. And you're doing that, right? That's another reason this partnership is so important. You're giving that career exposure, that awareness, that potential opportunity. You're providing some internships so that
Yeah.
kids can find out, is this for them or isn't it? And we hope, Brian, through this continued relationship, that it turns into job opportunities for, real jobs for kids, and
Absolutely.
as they become adults. So, breaking down those barriers and it's about access, right? It's about
Right.
access to opportunities and experiences. And, not to get off on a tangent on you, but, this is why America is so great. Because if you live here, you will have an education and you will have access. The challenge is some kids get it and some kids don't. And
Right.
too often it's defined by the zip code that you live in.
Sure.
That's what we do. That's the big barrier we break down. And it's through partnerships with you and your organization that we're able to do that, because these kids wouldn't have access otherwise. So
Right.
that's the moral to the story.
That's powerful. And when you shared that story, I just hope everyone on this call could take a moment to reflect back to your first job or those early childhood opportunities or teenage opportunities, and think back on what worked for us, what luxuries did we have, what privileges did we have, or what were the difficulties that we faced and how we overcame them. I had a car as well, and then all of a sudden the engine went out on it, and I didn't have money to replace it, so I didn't have a car any longer, and I had to walk to work, and luckily it wasn't too far, but it was far enough that it wasn't a pleasant walk, and it wasn't great, and specifically when the inclement weather wasn't ideal. But those are I just brought me back to those, and so many kids are facing these issues, whether it's transportation or the components you talk about, like the family dynamics. I mean, there's so many things that are happening that potentially get in the way. And we have such brilliant kids out there that may not have had those same opportunities. So here's my next question. It's interesting. Like if you think about like the Dalai Lama has a quote that, for change to happen in any community, the initiative must come from the individual. So we have a lot of associates on this call, and we're going to be able to cascade your message to a lot of our leaders. And we want to hire all your students, by the way, because we have so
Good.
many pets that need care, by the way. So we'll hire all that you want to send our way, please. So like if you think about all these leaders on our call now, like what advice would you give the individuals here today who want to support the students and kids in their community, but they're not sure like where to start? So like how can we help?
Well, we're fortunate to be on this call and be talking about Boys and Girls Clubs. I'm, of course, biased when it comes to that answer. And I would suggest that anybody that wants to engage in your community, look up, and you can go to our website, bgca.org, And there's a button, find a club. And there's a club probably in every community that you serve. And I would just say, pick up the phone call and say you'd like to come over and learn how you can help out. So it really is about just engaging. And sometimes it doesn't take a lot of time. I think one of the fears that people have is, oh my gosh, I say I want to help out, and give back or do something, and I'm going to be in for life, or it's going to be every day or whatever. And it's really not. It's really what works for you. And it may be coaching a game. It may be helping a kid get their homework done. I do that a lot personally when I go
That's
visit a Boys and
outstanding.
Girls Club. I sit right down, help them get their homework done because it's not happening at home. And so
Yeah.
simple things like that. And it makes a big difference. And then use your voice, be an advocate for whatever you believe in. Of course, I hope it's Boys and Girls Clubs, but whatever in your community gets you excited about helping, do it. And I use the crawl, walk, run approach, right? Just get involved and make sure it works for them and make sure it works for you and take it from there. But, take that initiative and take that first step to engage with whatever service or whatever organization that works for you. And of course, again, there's a lot of commercials for me. Boys and Girls Clubs
Hey,
be my
love
vote.
it. You got the podium here. Go, go, go. I think it's great. Well, we love the partnership, and I'll be an advocate and a spokesperson for you as well. So that was bcga.org, by the way. And so I want to give you essentially the final word. And so I have a two-part kind of question and close for you, I guess.
Yeah.
So maybe you could talk a little bit about like what you do to take care of your mental health, and then how that tie us into like, your final thought for our group here today.
Yeah, great question. And in general, at Boys and Girls Clubs right now, we are very focused on mental health, particularly because of what's transpired in the last couple of years for kids and the stress, anxiety, trauma they've been under.
Yeah.
So, we're all focused on it. And for me, personally, and I tell our team this all the time, find that outlet. So for some it's exercise, for some it's just sitting down reading a book, for some it's just having some quiet time. For others, it's cutting the grass. I mean, I do house jobs to get my mind off of things, but find something else. And I would also say this, that
Right.
if you can't find that and you find yourself in a bad place or in a stressful place, don't be afraid to ask for help. There's too much of a stigma around that. And,
Right.
I'll tell you a quick story. My son was really struggling with this remote learning in the last couple of years, and he was a straight A student, and grades fell, and it got bad. He was in his room, a dark room, a hoodie went up, zero communications, got less. And we waited too long, but we always say, hey, we're adults. I'm in the youth development business. I can fix this.
Yeah.
And we found we couldn't. So we went and we used our employee assistance program through our insurance company and got help. And today he's doing great. So whatever
Great.
that is, and the final word, and thanks for doing that, is really just gratitude and appreciation. You are all very special to do what you do. And second of all, you're very special to care about organizations like Boys and Girls Clubs. And there's a passion and a calling for your work as well. And pets are they're family, right? They're family to so
Right.
many. We have a
Absolutely.
cat. We have a cat at home, and I think that cat is more important than I am some days. So it is a real part of
It's
family.
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's highly possible. I definitely understand that feeling. I have two cats, and I'm just thankful they let me live in the house. So,
Exactly. So again,
no, well, Jim,
appreciation.
thank you for the final words there, and I love gratitude. I appreciate you sharing that, and just thank you for the partnership. It's so incredibly important, and we are in that intersection of pet health and societal well-being, and we have the opportunity to make sure that as leaders, we're responsible for the culture in which we create, and we're able to do it through these types of partnerships. So count on me, count on Banfield, count on all of our leaders. For all of your kids, we're here to help and do everything we can. And for everyone on this call, take something back. And what are you going to share with your team? What are you going to share with your family? What are you going to do differently as a result of this message? So, and I encourage everyone, bgca.org. Please check it out and figure out what more you can learn. And more importantly, what can we do? So, Jim, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. Take care.